Welcome to Pick Up and Deliver, the podcast where I pick up my audio recorder when I get off the train and deliver an episode to you while I walk home. I'm Brendan Riley. Well, good afternoon, listeners. It is a gloomy, cloudy Tuesday afternoon here in suburban Chicago. I hope that you are having a more pleasant day than I am. Although, honestly, my day has gone fine. It's just cold and gloomy. We're 2 days out from Halloween and looking to have a good time. I recorded the Scary Games episode recently. I think that is the next one that's being published. Actually, I may publish it tomorrow morning. So hopefully you'll have that before Halloween. This episode I expect won't come in until well after Halloween, because the next episode I record will probably be top of the stack November. So this episode is out of date a little bit, or out of time, but that's okay. You can enjoy it for what it is. I really enjoyed recording the last one of these, so I'm going to do it again. Please reach out on Boardgame Geek Guild 3269 and let me know if you think this is a dumb approach or topic, if you don't enjoy it. But I found it fun last time, so I'm going to do another episode of The Geek Asks. If you don't recall, this is a segment I did once before, I believe episode 175, in which I opened up the Boardgame Geek general forums and I scanned through looking at the subject headers of the forums, and anyone that's a question, I answer as though it's a question being asked of me. Sort of a little bit like my brother and me, but not as funny. So here we go. The Geek Asks, setting up a regular board game night work. I presume that is a question along the lines of, how do you set up a regular board game night at work? Or, how does it work to set up a regular board game night? Either way, the place to start is just bring some games, find some people. All of the rest of it is, follow on. Now, if you're doing it at work, there's a challenge because you don't want to bring games that are not appropriate. Leave Cards Against Humanity and Boostin' Memo at home. But presuming that you're playing games that are workplace appropriate, I would say just find a couple of people and say, hey, I'd like to show you some games. You want to hang around after work? Or if you're trying to do a regular one. The big challenge would be finding a place to meet. My game group meets at a pub that isn't very busy on Tuesday nights. So if you have a local pub that's got a lot of space, especially like a kind of well-lit upstairs space, you can talk to them about having a group of people regularly come. If you pick a night when it's not usually very busy, they'll be happy to have the custom, and everybody wins. In the long run, our game group ended up keeping a game library at the bar because we have several hundred games available to us. So that's how that works. What game will never leave your collection because it is quote-unquote perfect in your opinion? I don't know that I have any games that I would call perfect. I guess Netrunner's pretty close. Star Wars Rebellion is pretty close for me, especially with the expansion, which I think makes the combat better. A game that I would say would never leave my collection because it's perfect. Maybe Sagrada. My wife and I enjoy Sagrada a lot. I don't know if I would call it perfect. I don't think I have a game I would call perfect. So second half invalidated the first half. If it were just the first half, what are some games that would never leave your collection? All those ones I just mentioned, I would be hard pressed to sell or get rid of. Is there such a thing as a game that is too complex for a newbie? Yes. If you have somebody who has not played complex board games before, don't give them a heavy game to play as their first game out. It's possible they will like it, but for the most part they won't. And they won't want to play games with you again. So, there are lots of games that are too complex for a newbie. This is easy. Why the general disdain for semi-co-op type games? Do you agree? Semi-co-ops are not my favorite. And here's why. Often in first off, semi-co-op defined. A semi-co-op is a game where there are competing sets of motivations that shape the landscape of the board. For instance, In the game Australia, all the players must work together to defeat the elder gods, and if they fail to do that, nobody wins. The game wins. A situation where the game wins if everybody doesn't work together is a co-op, generally. A semi-co-op would be one where everyone works together to win the game, but then one player is dubbed the winner. Now, my family, Marvel Legendary was that kind of game, because Legendary does have a thing where you can evaluate who got the most points and decide winner that way, but we just played without that. Now, a game like Australia, that's part of the fun of the game, is that if everybody isn't chipping in adequately, the players who are doing poorly could ignore the great ones and concentrate on their own stuff, and thus leading to the great ones winning and no one winning. Similarly, if somebody's way out ahead winning, the other players could just let the game tank in order to keep that person from winning. And I can see why a semi-co-op is not everyone's favorite, especially if it's a fragile one. If you have a fragile co-op where one person can easily tank the game, and the game sets up a rule where only one person gets to win, but everybody has to help with the co-op, you can totally see a certain kind of player saying, well, I'm not going to win, so no one else should either. Now, I would suggest that's not an ideal way to play. I find that I am falling more and more on the side of the fellas over at So Very Wrong About Games, in which they suggest that the correct way to play a game is to do the best you can to improve your situation in the game, and that to alter that for various other reasons actually damages the gameplay experience for everybody else. Combine that, though, with people's desire to have fun. If you're not having fun and you shift the way that you're playing to have fun, that makes an interesting problem to deal with, especially if you're shifting it within the game boundaries. All right, continuing on. Poker chip recommendations. That's not a question, but I will say recommended. Can I have some of your thoughts, please? You're welcome to them. I like sharing them. Listen to Pick Up and Deliver from Rattlebox Games. Download where you listen to podcasts. Checking with the collective memory. That's not thefts as spiel getting worse. I bet that's supposed to be at spiel. I had not heard any stories yet about thefts at spiel. Although my understanding is that Spiel is one of those places where it's very hard to use credit card readers, that most people deal in cash, and as a result, there have been a number of thefts at Spiel. That's a bummer. I hope that they work on solving that problem. I'm skipping ones that aren't questions. Help identifying metal coins? ? Sure, I'll help. Are gaming tables worth it? ? Boy, the worth it there is a crucial question. Would I enjoy having a gaming table? Yes. Is it worth it? Depends how much you pay. Depends how much you make. Depends how often you use it. Depends has to be the answer there. I don't think I know anyone who has a gaming table who isn't glad they got one. So from that perspective, I'd say that it probably is. I certainly wouldn't mind having a nice gaming table sometime in the future. You know, our dining room table at our house right now is kind of mediocre. Replacing that with a really nice gaming table where the top makes it a regular table and then you can take it off to play games, that would be delightful for my taste. But there are lots of other things to spend our money on, including children and colleges. Did you read the card? Almost certainly I did. Do you sometimes change rules you don't like? Not very often, but sometimes. In co-ops, I'm more likely to change a rule I don't like than I would in a competitive game, because in a co-op, it's our group deciding how we want to play. So if we want to let somebody do a mulligan or take some sort of fudge play, that's fine, because it's our game. We can have fun if we want. What do I care what the designer wanted to do? In a competitive game, it's less common. A lot of competitive games that I have out of my library, I don't play very often. I play them occasionally. So if in getting ready to play them, I discovered that the common wisdom in the internet suggests a change. Often I will do that. For example, when I played Shipyard, the common wisdom was, instead of having secret scoring goals, there should be a market of public scoring goals, and each player can score any one of those that they like. The complaint there, or the problem that's trying to solve, is the complaint about randomness in scoring goals. There are some that are just easier to get than others. And so if you get two of the hard ones when you do your random draw, then you're stuck in a way that people who got two easy ones are not. But generally, I'm not going to change rules very often. Worst Kickstarter ever? Probably is. Let's see. Not going to answer what did you play this week, because I've got the top of the stack coming up. Would you knowingly buy a flawed game and house rule it? I have knowingly bought flawed games. I bought a few Acres of Snow, which is well documented as having a flawed strategy, although then I encounter lots of people who say it doesn't really have a flawed strategy, you just have to watch for it in the same way that any game would have. I think if I encountered a game that was known to have a pretty significant problem, that would be a mark against the game in terms of my interest in it. But if there's a clear answer to that house rule, I'd be willing to use it. So I guess yes is the answer. I would knowingly buy a flawed game and house rule it. Any light gamers in here? Not sure what a light gamer is. Does it involve some sort of flashlights? Is it Tron? A Tron-based gaming habit? No, I know they mean people who play light games. I'm sure there are some, but I suspect Boardgame Geek doesn't have that many. If you're into this hobby enough to be on Boardgame Geek, you're probably not into this hobby for light games very much. But I could be wrong. It would be interesting to go. There are 56 comments in that thread, so I suspect there are a few light gamers. What game took you the longest to unbox/prepare for initial play? I'm going to say, I'm assuming they don't mean the amount of time it takes me to get it to the table, because I have some games that are still waiting. That's not what they mean. I'm going to say Apocrypha adventure card game. That took me a really long time to get out, and once I got it out, it took me a long time to actually play it. I watched videos, I read the rules, I tried it a couple times. I don't know if I played it correctly. Frankly, I put it away again. I've been meaning to get it out again and try it, but it was not a great first experience. There's that. Oh, seems like a lot of sections that are not questions, or questions that you really need to read the thread, like what game do these dice go with? Come on, Boardgame Geek, ask me some questions. I'm running out of time here. How much do you like players trying to influence another player's move? So there are some games where that absolutely is the thing. You know, if you're playing Rex, or you're playing Twilight Imperium, like Dudes on a Map game where you're trying to control things, trying to influence another player's move is absolutely part of it. I guess if your community, if your game table group is of that mind, that's fine. But I'm generally not a big fan of it, because I'm not a fan of games being super vicious competitive. And I feel like as soon as you start telling people to change their moves, that is a level of competitiveness a couple notches up from anything I would normally engage in. And so generally not my favorite. That said, you know, an area control game, or the kind of game where people have to kind of have shifting alliances and team up to keep somebody from winning, I think telling people the move they should do or telling somebody it's a bad move is part of the experience. Where to get edge stitching done on my gaming mat? Probably a tailor. When do you game? Poll. Well, whenever I can. Tuesday nights is a pretty guaranteed time. And then whenever I can, other than that, often on the weekends, although this autumn has been much slower that way. Finally, top 5 deck building games, and this will have to be the last one before I wrap up, I'll have to do very fast. Top 5 deck building games. I'm going to put Arctic Scavengers at the top for me, then Clank, then Big Book of Madness, Dominion, Marvel Legendary Alien. Or Legendary Alien. Yeah, I'll give those 5. And I'll say Legendary Alien above Dominion. I thought Dominion was fine, but not my favorite. I'll say those are my top 5 deck builders, at least right now. Always could be more. Oh, El Dorado, the Quest for El Dorado should be in there. I'm going to put the Quest for El Dorado on and take Big Book of Madness out. All right, well, thanks for joining me. It is now time for me to stop because I'm home. So pop over to Boardgame Geek Guild 3269 and argue with me about some of these answers. Or if you did not like this segment, come over and tell me not to do it again. I'd be happy to know that it wasn't your favorite. Or if you really liked it, come and tell me it was. Thanks for joining me. I hope your next walk is as pleasant as mine was. Bye-bye.
Brought to you by Rattlebox Games.